Welcome to a story of power, crime, and destiny. This is the rise and fall of Pablo Escobar. In a small town in Colombia, a boy was born who would one day change the history of crime forever. His name was Pablo Escobar. No one knew that this quiet child would become the most feared man on earth. A man whose power would shake governments. A man whose money would flood cities. A man whose name would become a legend of fear. This is not just a story. This is the beginning of a dark empire. Pablo grew up in poverty. His family had very little, but his dreams were dangerously big. From a young age, he wanted power. He wanted respect. He wanted to be someone the world could not ignore. While other children dreamed of simple lives, Pablo dreamed of ruling the streets. He started small, very small. First it was selling illegal cigarettes, then fake lottery tickets, then stealing cars. Each crime made him bolder. Each success made him hungrier. Pablo learned one rule early. Fear gives power, and power gives control. By his teenage years, he was already known in his area. People whispered his name. Some admired him. Others feared him. But Pablo wanted more than fear. He wanted an empire. In the 1970s, something changed the world. Cocaine became the most demanded drug in America, and Pablo saw his opportunity. He understood something others did not. This was not just a drug, this was a gold mine. He gathered a group of loyal men, smugglers, pilots, dealers. He created a network, silent, deadly, efficient. Planes flew from Colombia to the United States, loaded with white powder, loaded with millions of dollars. In just a few years, Pablo Escobar became unbelievably rich, so rich that money lost its meaning. He had so much cash that rats destroyed millions of dollars in his warehouses because there was nowhere left to store it. But wealth was not enough. Pablo wanted respect. He wanted authority. He wanted to be untouchable. So he tried to become a politician. He helped poor people. He built houses. He built schools. He gave food. He gave hope to the poor. He was a hero. To the government, he was a monster. Two faces. One man. Behind the kindness was violence. Behind the charity was blood. Pablo had a rule. If you stand against me, you disappear. Judges were killed. Police were killed. Journalists were silenced. Colombia began to live in fear. Bombs exploded in cities. Planes were destroyed in the sky. The country was trapped in terror. And at the center of it all was one name, Pablo Escobar. By the end of the 1980s, he controlled almost all the cocaine entering America. He was making millions every single day. He was listed as one of the richest men in the world. Not a businessman, not a politician, a criminal, but power has a price. And Pablo was about to learn that no empire built on blood lasts forever. This was only the beginning. By the early 1980s, Pablo Escobar had already built a small empire, but small was never enough for him. He wanted control over all cocaine in Colombia, and eventually in the United States. Pablo understood the power of loyalty. He created a group of men who would follow him without question. Smugglers, pilots, enforcers, each man had a role. Each man was part of his deadly network. Planes flew nightly across borders. Ships carried thousands of kilos. Every delivery brought millions of dollars. Soon, the Medellin cartel became a household name, not because of kindness, but because of fear. Anyone who stood against Pablo disappeared. Rival drug lords were executed. Police officers were killed. Politicians were bribed. Journalists silenced. Every step of the way, Pablo remained two-faced. To the poor, he was a hero, building homes, schools, and giving food. To the government, he was a nightmare. A man who could kill without hesitation. His influence spread far and wide. He had money, power, and fear on his side. Governors and judges bowed to him. The streets of Colombia belonged to Pablo Escobar. But power attracts enemies, and Pablo was about to face challenges, not from ordinary criminals, but from rivals and governments who were determined to stop him. He became obsessed with protection, building fences around his properties, hiring bodyguards, and even creating entire safe cities where he could live like a king, untouchable and feared. The Medellin cartel's violence reached new heights. Bombs destroyed entire buildings. Executions were broadcast as a warning. Even the streets of Bogotá felt his terror. At the same time, the United States intensified efforts to stop the cocaine trade. DEA agents and task forces were hunting him. But Pablo Escobar always seemed one step ahead. He understood one principle: money could buy power, but fear would make you untouchable. By the mid-1980s, Pablo Escobar had become a legend, known as the King of Cocaine, the richest criminal in history. But every empire built on blood will eventually face its reckoning. By the late 1980s, Pablo Escobar's empire had grown beyond imagination. He controlled almost all the cocaine entering the United States, making millions every single day. But with great power comes great danger. Rival cartels could no longer compete. They were destroyed or absorbed. Pablo became the undisputed king of cocaine. His wealth unimaginable, his influence unstoppable. But the violence escalated. Every challenge was met with brutality. Assassinations, bombings, and terror. Entire cities lived under fear. Planes exploded in mid-air. Public buildings were destroyed. Even ordinary people were caught in his war. Despite the chaos, Pablo tried to maintain a public image. He built homes for the poor. He donated to schools. He provided hope to the communities that loved him. They called him Robin Hood of Colombia, but behind the charity was blood. Behind the smiles was fear. The Colombian government could no longer ignore him. The United States demanded action. Special task forces were formed. DEA agents hunted him relentlessly. But Pablo Escobar always seemed one step ahead. He hid in luxurious safe houses. He moved through secret tunnels. He used bribery, intimidation, and violence to stay untouchable. But paranoia took over. He trusted almost no one. Allies became enemies. Enemies became ghosts. By 1989, the world began to see the cost of his power. He had wealth, fame, and fear, but he could not escape the law forever. Soon, the empire that money built would begin to crumble. The same streets that made him a king would also become his battlefield. Pablo Escobar's story is a warning, a tale of ambition, greed, and violence, a reminder that empires built on fear are destined to fall. By the early 1990s, Pablo Escobar's empire was under siege. The government and law enforcement were closing in. The United States and Colombia joined forces, determined to end his reign of terror. Pablo could feel the walls closing around him. Every ally was watched. Every move was traced. Paranoia ruled his life. No one could be trusted completely. Despite the pressure, he continued his empire. Drug shipments continued. Money flowed endlessly. But violence escalated even further. The streets of Medellin became a battlefield. Car bombs exploded without warning. Assassinations spread fear. Even innocent civilians were caught in the chaos. Pablo tried to protect himself. Safe houses fortified. Secret tunnels dug. Bodyguards loyal to death. Planes, helicopters, and armored vehicles became his shield. But the law was relentless. The hunt was organized. Intelligence networks tracked him. Every escape route was closed. By 1992, the government forced him to surrender. He negotiated temporary freedom. A prison built just for him. La Catedral, a fortress disguised as jail. Inside, Pablo lived like a king. Luxury, parties, and freedom within walls. But his empire outside continued to crumble. Rival groups fought for control. Allies betrayed him. The law tightened its grip. Pablo Escobar could no longer hide from reality. He knew one day it would end. The empire built on fear and money could not survive forever. By December 1993, the man who once ruled Colombia, the richest criminal in history, was finally located. A rooftop in Medellin became his final battlefield. Pablo Escobar's life ended violently. His story became legend, a tale of ambition, greed, and power, a reminder that even the most feared man cannot escape the consequences of his choices. The story of Pablo Escobar is not just about crime. It is about humanity, power, fear, and the thin line between legend and tragedy. This was the rise and fall of a man who became the king of cocaine and left a mark on history that will never be forgotten. Pablo Escobar's death marked the end of an era. The king of cocaine was gone, but his story continued to echo across the world. Colombia slowly began to recover, yet the scars of violence remained. Families torn apart, cities haunted by fear, and a generation that remembered the terror. The Medellin cartel fell, rival groups tried to take over, but nothing could ever match the empire Pablo built. He had changed the rules of crime forever. Even in death, Pablo Escobar remained a legend. To some, he was a villain. To others, a hero. The Robin Hood of the poor, the nightmare of the powerful. His life is a lesson in ambition, greed, and the consequences of choices made in darkness. Pablo Escobar showed the world how one man can rise from poverty to unimaginable wealth and influence, but also how quickly power built on fear can crumble. Movies, series, and documentaries continue to tell his story. The world remains fascinated by the legend. The empire of cocaine, the man who ruled with money and terror. Yet history remembers not just the man, but the lives affected, the families lost, the cities forever changed. Pablo Escobar's rise and fall is a story of extremes, of power and downfall, of fear and fascination, of humanity and violence. This is the legacy of Pablo Escobar, a reminder that even the mightiest empires can fall, and that behind every legend lies a story of human choices and consequences that cannot be escaped. The story ends here, but the name Pablo Escobar will remain in history forever.